Welcome, everyone, to THPS Podcast, episode number 23. My name is the Dode Man. I'd like to welcome you today. Thank you so much for taking some time to hang out and join us and be part of the conversation. We are super stoked to have you part of this. I would like to welcome at this time my co host, my partner in crime. Please, everybody say hello to Freddie.
Hey guys, great to be here. We have a huge guest today. Wait till you hear from him.
Absolutely. We're excited. So, without further ado, on that note, we're going to jump right into our welcoming our guest today. Today, we are pleased to welcome Ludvig Gür, also known as Ice Bears Forever. Many of you will know him by that name. Ice Bears, he has this highly successful YouTube channel with almost 9,000 subscribers. He has produced and released over 300 Tony Hawk's Pro Skater related videos, including multiple game reviews, game walkthroughs, and much more. Ludvig is also the director of Pretending I'm a Superman, the Tony Hawk video game story. It's a full-length documentary which tells the story of how skateboarding became a part of the mainstream, where it has stayed ever since, the development of the first Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game, its future titles, and where skateboarding is at today. The story is told through brand new interviews with skaters such as Tony Hawk, Eric Koston, Steve Caballero, Rodney Mullen, and much more. The world premiere of the film happened this past weekend in California at the Mammoth Film Festival, and it won 2 awards at the festival: Best Action Sports Feature and Best Documentary Feature. So, we would like to welcome at this time, everybody please join us in welcoming Ludvig to the podcast.
Hey guys, thank you so much. Such an honor to be here, really. I've always been a part of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater community, online community, and it's such an honor to be invited to this podcast and, to talk to these guys who've been with the community for so long. So yeah, thank you once again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's late as you're back in Sweden now after being in the States here for the Mammoth Film Festival. So we really appreciate you taking the time and staying up late for us and joining us for the conversation here. So,
Absolutely, so fine, so great to finally talk to you, Ice Bears.
Oh, it's such an honor. No worries at all. Thank you.
all right.
So we want to
Go ahead,
hop
Freddie.
into we're gonna hop into general questions real quick. Just a couple here. Ludwig, when did you actually start playing the THPS series?
I started Tony Hawk 3 around 2002. I'd say, that's when I started. I had it on the GameCube, and I kind of followed each release from Tony Hawk's Underground to Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. So there's quite a bunch of games there. I was never part of the online community because I was playing on the GameCube, and then I played on Nintendo Wii for a while. Eventually, I actually saved up a lot of money to not a lot, but for me that was a lot of time when I was like 13. I saved a bunch of money to buy a PlayStation 2. This was like 2010 as well, so this was way late. Lots of kids pulled me for that, and then I connected online to the community. I think the PTC protocol, who's known as Ant Venom these days,
Yeah.
was the guy who kind of connected me. He had a video that kind of showed how to connect online, and yeah, the rest is history, I guess. I joined. There were about 20 people playing. I mean, in total. So probably one room at best. Tony Hawk's Underground, PlayStation 2 online back in 2010. But I had a lot of fun. That was my dream, to just play Tony Hawk games online. It was a lot of fun.
Man, those connectivity stuff, that was a chore before Thug Pro came out. It was really a challenge to get online. I mean, Freddie, you probably have better memory than I do of how some of those servers work and stuff. So, man, to persist and actually get connected to be able to play the series online that late in the era, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, totally. It was a dream come true. I always wanted to, and then to finally be able to. With I mean, sure, it was only 10 people, but that was like 1,000 people to me. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Fair enough. All right, cool. So, next question: What's your favorite Tony Hawk game? And then give us a little bit of context as to why you would say it's your favorite.
Oh God, I'd say probably Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, just because it's so massive, open ended, and has such an amazing soundtrack. It's the one I definitely enjoy playing the most, and I feel like I could probably play for hours upon hours without getting tired at all or want to switch the game. also Tony Hawk 3, and then Tony Hawk's Underground. Now I know there's 3 games, but I think those 3 are the ones that are closest to my heart because those are the ones that I kind of grew up with. Tony Hawk 1 and 2, I played in a much later stage. I very much enjoy those games too. I mean, fun fact, I actually mostly played Tony Hawk 2 on my iPhone because that came out when I was my first year of high school, I think. Tony Hawk 2 on iPhone, such a good port of the game, and I played that all the time, like crazy, so yeah.
It had surprisingly good controls for a touchscreen.
Absolutely.
I think I played it a grand total of 1 time. I never really played it much, but gosh, you are in fellow company with loving Tony Hawk 4 being a favorite title. Freddie and I think would both say that's our favorite as well. So,
oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, you found some kindred spirits here for sure.
Now we're going to move along into some more in-depth questions for you, Ludvig. I want to start off asking you, why exactly did you start your YouTube channel?
That's a good question, Freddie. I mean, I think my YouTube channel kind of started around the time when YouTube wasn't really as big since it is now. Obviously, I think the channel that had the most amount of subscribers at that time had like 3 million, and now a 3 million subscriber channel is just another YouTube channel. So, I think I watched a lot of videos like on doing gaps and all that stuff, and I started doing some walkthroughs. I had like a really crappy camera that I would record the videos with, and then I'd share them online, and some of those actually ended up getting a couple thousand views, so that kind of motivated me. And then my twin brother has always been into like YouTube video games, stuff like that, and commentaries, and he's the one who kind of brought me to the other level of like, oh well, you can obviously do these videos where you score 1 billion points, you have copyrighted music, and and they get that many views. But you can also do these commentaries where you introduce new people to the game and stuff like that. And so I think he's the one who kind of made the channel what it is today. He's actually a full-time YouTuber himself. His YouTube name is Overwatch Central. So his dream did become true after a while. But yeah, the first few years of YouTubing, that was just me like doing a bunch of not very good commentaries essentially. And I think as kind of Tony Hawk 5 came around, was announced in HD, that's when I think I realized it could be a serious business. Not serious in a way, but at that time being in high school, it definitely was a serious business to me. So I never really got far with YouTube, as to say made a living off it or something like that. But I did and I was pretty blown away, and I was like, sweet, now I can get myself a new pair of Vans, a Donnie Darko t-shirt, and all this stuff. So yeah,
nice.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't realize you had a twin brother that was doing this too. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
So did your YouTube channel, was it ever popular enough to where you were able to monetize some of the content, and you were able to make you just kind of expressed that you got some Donnie Darko t-shirts and some Vans and stuff out of it. So it sounds like you made a few dollars. Was it ever enough to like make a living off of it, support yourself, or did it never quite get to that point?
No, I never quite got to the point where I could make an actual living off it. I mean, that would have been good, but no, it definitely didn't. At most, I think I made a couple $100 a month. It was during the time when Tony Hawk 5 was being released, and I think I had some hopes that if Tony Hawk 5 becomes a success, maybe I'll be able to kind of work with that game as my basis and grow bigger that way. But that didn't happen, as you all know. So
sure.
So yeah. Saboteur, no, I never was able to make a living off it. Yeah.
You spoke about the gradual evolution of your YouTube channel. When did you decide to evolve your video content creation from your channel into a wider focus and eventually into something that has become a very serious part of your life?
Well, I was always into filmmaking. I mean, that's kind of what I was always into. YouTube was really kind of I don't want to say it was an accident, but it was definitely like I never intended to have sort of this very small fan base that wanted videos every week. But it was a great way to kind of explore. But I do notice when I rewatch my videos that I tended to become a little lazier as it progressed. I tended to do like videos that didn't really have much meaning and stuff. But I think that was because I was so focused on filmmaking on the side. I wanted to do other stuff that I just decided to do Let's Plays instead, because you could do Let's Plays and you could gain some views, and that's just playing for 30 minutes and commentating. So I think just like when I started high school, I started making some films, and eventually I did the history of Tony Hawk's video. I did 2 of those, and I think those were kind of my first step into something more serious. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I don't really think the YouTube channel was ever connected to me actually getting pursuing a film career. I felt like that was always there even before the YouTube channel.
Oh, interesting. Huh, that's good insight and good to know. So, as you've expressed, these days it seems like you're kind of definitely into the more serious filmmaking instead of the YouTube content. It looks like, just looking at the video uploads, you haven't uploaded a video in quite some time. Do you plan to make any more content for your YouTube channel, or does that seem like that season is kind of pretty much over and you're focusing on other things?
Yeah, I think we're done with that chapter, honestly. I'd love to upload more YouTube videos when I look at it, but at the same time, at this point, I really would want to do something that has real effort put into it, and I just don't feel like I'm the one to do that. And since I kind of stopped with YouTube, I feel like there have been so many other channels that did what I kind of always intended to do, but like way better, like Rather at the Video. There was a guy called Mini Me who did videos on he didn't do Tony Hawk videos only, but he did videos on the ports of the games, Odd Header and stuff like that. So I kind of felt like I guess they saw my channel, saw that there was better potential than just like Let's Play videos, and they really did it. I mean, Rather at Videos got amazing content on the Tony Hawk games and skateboarding in general, and I felt like that was a step that I always wanted to take, but I couldn't because I didn't know enough about skateboarding at that time. But he really did. So, yeah, I mean, props to Rather at Video. I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, Rat, I watch his content as well. I know quite a few people in the community do. He just actually released a video, I think, this week about Tony Hawk's Skate Jam, the new mobile game. So
That's right.
I'm interested to watch it. So
that's right.
All right, Ludvig. What is the genesis? How did you first get involved with the Pretending I'm a Superman project?
So essentially, I made a. So this is funny. It's this. There's always a misunderstanding with this, which video we're talking about. So in 2013, I made a video called "The History of Tony Hawk Games" with my twin brother, where it was me with my very, very bad commentary, like such a commentating over like the history of Tony Hawk Games up until Tony Hawk's Skater HD. But this was way before all those like YouTube became a professional thing. So like there were a bunch of other mini docs about other games. This was way before that. So I think in 2013 this was the best you got if you wanted to watch a proper video about the history of Tony Hawk games, and not just a video where there's like JPEGs from Google Images like of each game and like
Guys
a
need
game.
to know. Should
So-
they be shaving them?
And Ralph D'Amato, who worked for Neversoft and then worked for Tony Hawk King, he saw that video in 2014. It was the Super Bowl 2014, Seattle Seahawks versus Denver Broncos. This is the only Super Bowl I ever watched. That's how I remember this date. And essentially, he just messaged me and said, "I really like your video. You're good at what you're doing." I was the producer, and of that, and we kind of started talking. And coincidentally, he was going to Sweden that summer. So we decided to meet up, and I was like 16 at the time. He gave me all this super cool merchandise. I felt like my life was complete. I mean, to never have been to the United States and get so much stuff from like this guy who worked in your favorite game of all time, and to have him chat about everything that's good about the game and stuff like that. I mean, it was amazing, and so. Time passed, and in 2016, after I graduated high school, I went to California because I wanted to. I thought my life's going to be easier if I just went there, and everybody would, and my filmmaking career would kick off and shit. But he essentially said like he had an idea earlier. So Josh Otsui, who was the CEO of Robomoto, he worked for Midway earlier in his career, and he was doing a documentary about Midway. No, yes, he was. It was about Midway. And he launched it on Kickstarter. And I guess that kind of motivated Ralph. Like, I want to make a documentary about THPS. But at this time, it was more Neversoft focused. He wanted to do essentially about Neversoft, all their parties and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, cool, want me to direct? And he was kind of like, I was kind of, trying to get in there somehow. And eventually, when I went out there to California, we were talking about like crazy, like, yes, let's do a documentary on the subject. And at that time, we didn't really see the potential of it, but I ended up going to Tony's the next day after we talked about it and pitched the idea, and he was like immediately like, yes, I'll do it, because Raph had already talked about it, but he was immediately up for it. This was right the year after Skater 5. He was like, yes, I'll do the documentary for sure. This sounds really good. And he didn't even ask me about any of my experience or anything like that, which was good, because I had none at that time.
That's amazing.
So,
wow,
That's crazy.
Yeah. Right, and then we shot the first trailer. We shot the trailer several months later in November 2016. That where we interviewed Rodney Mullen, we interviewed Tony Hawk, we interviewed some of the developers. That went viral. We did a crowdfunding that didn't go so well, and the rest is history. Kind of. I guess there's more questions about the doc, so I'll stop there for now.
Yeah, sure. No, that's great. That's amazing that he just saw your YouTube content and then just looked you up and was like, "Hey, let's figure out a way to make a documentary out of this." And I like how you just nonchalantly said, "Yeah, the next day we went to Tony's," just like it's no big deal.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. I love it. So I don't even think I need to ask this next question, but it sounds like the story and the concept originally the genesis of that came from your head, but then it sounds like you and Ralph collaborated on that, or was the whole kind of flow of it, the whole story, the whole concept was that just yours?
No, that's a really good question. So, I mean, when we started the project, Ralph and I had very different visions, and this was as I was getting into filmmaking too. So my perspective of how to make good documentary changed. I mean, our original plan, if you look at our original pitch, was essentially to just make a documentary about every single game. Essentially, it would be like the YouTube documentary I did, but it would be way more professional. But I think as we developed the thing, I kind of realized like, no, we need to like get more perspectives in. We need to focus on skateboarding. We need to focus on the first game, and we need to focus on the skaters. Like, we cannot focus on like Neversoft having a party with Jen Jameson. Like Neversoft goofing around the office. That's all fun, but that's not gonna make a good doc. And
Sure.
Ralph was kind of like, he was a little upset about that at first, but then as we progressed, he was just like, no, okay, yeah, this was thank you so much for pushing me like in a different direction where we focus on like this through skateboarding and like mainly focus on the impact that this video game had on this gigantic industry that's so mainstream now. So yeah, I mean, it was it kind of changed during the movie, even as we had done our first round of shooting the intros like for the actual film. Ralph still wasn't quite sure what we were gonna do with them, but then I sent him the first rough cut, and he was like, "Oh, this is really good." And it didn't have that much Neversoft focus. It did have a little, but I mean, he really enjoyed it, and yeah, that's kind of it.
Nice.
We've got a two-parter here. You originally worked on getting the funding for the documentary via Indiegogo. How close did you all come to getting it fully funded, and how differently would you have treated the project had you got it fully funded?
So I think our Indiegogo wasn't very successful for various reasons. I think the number one was that we just didn't know. We thought we have Tony, we had a star power, we're gonna get all the money instantly. Obviously, that's not how Indiegogo works. We and I've learned this, and I've done another Indiegogo since that's been a bit more successful. That actually got funded fully, but. So, our idea was just, we'll get the money in Indiegogo, we'll do the film, and it'll be done by 2018. That was the original plan, and obviously that didn't happen. So I think if we would have got the full funding, we would have still gone through a similar process of, we should do this and that. And I think that, I think we got 20% of our budget there, like that we wanted to have from Indiegogo, which was about 20K, which is not a whole lot of money. And I think what we were looking for was like 75K, and that's not a whole lot of money either. That's not enough to make the documentary. So I kind of feel like we would have had an advantage at the beginning of the production of documentary, but eventually would have fallen down. But it is because of that Indiegogo that we got a lot of exposure and the other investors, and and we got the product independently funded. That is because of Indiegogo we were able to do that.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that, and that's an interesting thing to note for sure. Because you would think, oh, you didn't get the funding or whatever, so the project died. And I remember, following along and being a supporter and everything else of the campaign. And then when I heard it
Yeah.
didn't get funded, I was bummed. But at the same time, you guys were like, we don't care. We think this is an important project. We think there's enough traction here. We're going to continue
Yeah.
to do it anyway. Which I was like, wow, that's really cool. To kind of, this was fully grassroots, and with as popular as this series became, sold millions and millions of copies. Whatever, multi-million dollar franchise. I was so surprised that it didn't get funded. I would imagine you guys probably felt the same.
Yeah, we were definitely surprised. I mean, for sure. But I think what we didn't realize at the time is that having an Indiegogo, it's like having a full time job. You got to work in it constantly. And we didn't even have like someone a PR agent to handle it for us. So we did everything ourselves.
Wow.
And that's the biggest mistake we ever did, because that's totally what kind of made it fall down completely. We just didn't have a good strategy. Everything was spontaneous. There was one point where we had a little hope, because there were like some people like actually sending us funds, because we were like, oh, the next 20 people who donate will get this sticker or something like that. But that fell apart too, man. So we were very disappointed for sure, and that definitely set us back a lot. Like that summer, or the whole thing that happened, that set us back a lot, and it definitely made us lose a lot of hope. And we even went head to head a lot and had a lot of fights about this. Luckily,
Interesting.
we worked it out since, but yeah, having an Indiegogo is stressful. So I always, now I get a lot of people coming up to me and like, how do I do an Indiegogo properly? I mean, you got to tell me, man, because I want to get funding. And what I always tell people is, do you have like enough friends who could fund a project without like anyone else backing it? And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, then you probably can't do it in Indiegogo, because you got to realize that even if you have a star power, 25% of the donations are going to be your friends, and if you're not comfortable
Yeah.
enough asking them, then you're out of luck, kind of. And that's the sad truth about it.
That's interesting. Good perspective there. So, how long in total did it take you guys to film the final version of the movie that you guys premiered last weekend?
So we shot essentially we had some footage from the trailer in the film, a lot of Tony interviews. We had so over a period of about 3 years we shot the film. So the very first interviews were shot in 2016 November, and the very last were shot in May 2019, I think. So it was about 3 years, man. But it was I mean, it's obviously we didn't shoot every month for 3 years. We shot November to December 2017. We shot summer of 2018, and then finally May 2019. So it took us a while, but well worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So with you living in Sweden, it must have been challenging getting to the U.S. to film parts. How many total trips did you make during production?
I made quite a few. I got to be honest. I made probably like about four. But I mean, it was worth it. There was enough funding to kind of make my visit very comfortable, and at that time too, I felt I was always living in LA, so and I love LA, so I definitely didn't mind at all, and I always try to combine that trip with like when we were shooting with other meetings and stuff like that, and it always worked out somehow. So, and I'm really thankful for that.
Nice. Yeah, I figured that would have been quite an ordeal to have to, make the flight over, and I'm sure that's not a cheap flight, nor is it short. I mean, that's got to be multiple hours, multiple stopovers at various airports and everything else.
Yeah, there used to be a direct flight actually from Stockholm to LA, which I was able to take twice, but they actually canceled that now. But that was definitely good when they had that, but they don't have that anymore. So, but that's still about a 12-hour flight, so it's definitely a lot. But I mean, at this point I'm very used to it. So yeah.
Not a big deal anymore. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, just because of licensing and rights, and everybody wants their piece of the pie, and everybody wants their fingers in the pot of money. Did you guys end up with any challenges during the project with licensing and getting rights to be able to actually use the name Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and footage from the games and so forth and so on? Talk about that a little bit.
So much. I mean, I think if you're gonna do an episode of Ralph, you can probably oh, what's the word? Sorry about that. Well, you can probably tell me more about this, but for now, I can just say that we ended up getting a lot of it under the fair use category. So yeah, it's been easier than we thought, and also Activision has actually been very supportive, and for reasons I can't really tell you. But yeah, I'm sure Ralph can talk more about that later on.
Great. Yeah, we'd love to have Ralph on the podcast. I haven't talked to him yet, but we plan to do that in the future. So,
I'm sure he'd love to. Yeah.
cool.
A large part of our listening audience are hardcore THPS fans who have been playing the series for years and are part of a well-established online community. Do you cover any aspects of the online community in the film? And to follow up to that, was that community part of your target demo for this, or was it more largely intended for the casual THPS fan?
Oh man, yeah, that's a hard question, but I mean, yeah, I gotta give you a proper answer to that. So yeah, like you said, there's a massive. There's a big hardcore community for THPS, and obviously that's the one I was mostly thinking about when we started out the project. That we have to satisfy them in some ways. As we were announcing the product, even we ended up getting a lot of mail like, "Oh, will you cover the speedrun community? Will you cover the modding community?" And that's all fun and games and such. And I definitely love the community in its own way, but I think what we ended up realizing as we were talking about Tony Hawk 3 and stuff is just that, the story of Tony Hawk games just doesn't. It's just not that interesting after Tony Hawk 3, and we wanted the film to. We wanted people to be able to appreciate the film no matter where they came from, what their background with Tony Hawk's Skater is, and such. And that's what I feel like we've been able to do. The response has been very overwhelming, even for people who never played Tony Hawk's Skater before, and. So yeah, I think we kind of decided to focus more on that, and as a result, a lot of things were left out. And that doesn't mean that the online community is entirely left out of it, but it means that we definitely had to focus the thing mainly on being comprehensible for a general audience and not focus on all those details, and just like have anybody, no matter where they came from, no matter where they come from, no matter what their background with the game is, to be able to appreciate the doc, and that's what I feel like we got to at this point. And the online community is, very niche in its own right. So yeah, it was very hard to include that in the film.
Yeah, that's it's good to hear that you kind of considered that, but I think you've realized that I don't think anybody in the online community, as much as those of us that have been involved for so long, I know I have no misnomers that there's a much broader audience for this series than just the online community. And in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, in fairness, it was crazy how many people played online at that time. But I think they were fairly just like a flash in the pan kind of quick. They would play a little bit, but they wouldn't get into it really largely like a lot of us did that are still 20 years later still playing.
Right.
So and I don't think that's offensive to anybody. I know it's not to me to know that, okay, yeah, we did consider that, but we also had to understand that we'd like this to be marketable to as many people as possible, not just this smaller, more niche group.
Right. Yeah. Because one thing that I probably should have mentioned is just that everybody's familiar with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I mean not everybody, but a lot of people love the game. But people love the soundtrack, people love the gameplay. The online community isn't really a thing that people mention a lot when they talk about the nostalgic aspect, and I think that's because most people probably played 1 and 2 and 3 maybe.
Right.
And I think I'm not going to say there was a downfall after 4 because I don't think so. As you could tell, Underground is my favorite. But I just think the online community, which I still love, and I love the efforts they put into it, but it's just not, I'm not going to say interesting, but it's just not kind of big enough to really put into the official film about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Because at this point, this is the official film about the video game. And, to have that as the main part of the film would be really, really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, you guys are making your own film about the online community. I thought I read somewhere. So,
it's been flirted with over time, but this podcast that we're doing now is really fulfilling I think a need and a niche. Mr. Freeze was the guy that came up with this concept, and he's a player that was around in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and he did 19 episodes, and then Freddie and I took it over this year. Anyway,
Right.
So that's kind of what we've morphed some of those ideas into, but we'll see what happens in the future. Yeah. So how much involvement did Tony himself have in the production of this? Obviously, you filmed him, but did he? I mean, I know he was so involved with the development of the games when they were still cranking out. Did he get heavily involved in this, or was it more you and Ralph?
No, he wasn't that heavily involved. I mean, he poured us. He always, let us into him whenever we were doing the shoots. But, he was mainly just an introduced subject. And, he was a great one at that. And, he really let us dive into his life. And it wasn't really until the end of production where, he really got, I wouldn't say involved, but he became real passionate about it because, I felt like he didn't necessarily forget about the project, but I guess his focus shifted to more important things for him at the time. And then I know Ralph showed him a version of the film, I think last year, and he was just blown away. I mean, and that was so nice to see because after all, that's a guy who the film is about in one way or another, and to see him getting blown away by the documentary was absolutely amazing. So yeah, that was really cool. And from that, he became a little involved with you know, consulting and stuff like that. But he was still mainly an interview subject. But since we showed in the film, he's been very, very supportive about it. So yeah,
Nice.
can't thank him enough.
That's cool to hear that Tony was blown away by it. But now that you have had the film's premiere, how satisfied are you with the final version?
I mean, I'm happy with it. There's definitely changes I would make just to. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't make changes to anything. Any probably have done. I mean, nothing's perfect, but I feel like it's a good piece. I feel like it's a very definitive piece of about the history of Tony Hawk games. And I think if I was just a casual player, I would totally enjoy the documentary. And there are parts where I worry that this is where people are going to lose interest, but I'm not going to mention which parts of the film because that would probably ruin the surprise. But I mean, it hasn't. Nobody's reacted to that, and I mean that's a great thing to know that people have enjoyed it thoroughly. They think the length is right, and yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with it for sure. For sure, I think we've done a great job, and just to have Tony say that the film is very close to his heart and it covers a lot of ground, that just means a lot because I was never a part of the development of Tony Hawk games. I was never a part of the skateboarding community back then, and then to kind of have the biggest skateboarder of all time who's behind the video game just say that it's amazing, and I think that alone makes me very happy.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a huge honor for him to say that. Definitely. So the premiere last weekend, awesome. I'm super bummed that I couldn't make it down. The flights just didn't work with my schedules and price and budgets and all that. But talk about how the premiere went and how well was the film received. I mean, obviously it had to be pretty well received since you guys walk away with two awards, right out the gate there. What was the feedback you got from the audience? What was the reception of it?
Yeah, man. I mean, so the thing about it is, it's that Mammoth Film Festival really promoted the hell out of the film, and this was also when we had a PR agent. So I don't know if you noticed, but the film ended up making it to a lot of major news outlets like Forbes and Variety, and that was very unexpected. But so I think there was a lot of hype for the film, and because the festival promoted it as the main film of the festival, kind of, already before the premiere, people were coming up to you, or as soon as you said, I'm working on a film, they were like real nice to you about it. Like, oh, such an honor to meet you, man. Like, how did this happen? So I feel like when the film premiered, I kind of, and it sounds cocky as hell to say it, but I didn't really expect anything but people to like it. And, they did. So, I mean, it was very well received. There was standing ovation. I sat next to Rodney Mullen the entire film, actually.
Nice.
So, and he laughed a lot. And that, I didn't necessarily intend it for any comedy, but I mean, there were parts where everybody laughed out loudly, and parts that I didn't even predict. And again, like I said, people really loved it. It seems so. I'm very happy with the response to the film, and obviously, a lot of people came up to me afterward, me and Tony, and just were really positive about it. And Ronnie was a big fan. All the critics were big fans. So yeah, we'll see where it goes from there. And there's been a lot of talk about it now. There's been a lot of offers, so yeah, it feels really good. It was definitely a great world premiere, and we originally wanted to have it at South by Southwest, which was supposed to be this week, I think, next week that is, but we just learned that they canceled the whole festival because of the coronavirus.
Yep.
So I mean, we dodged a missile, as Ralph told me. Yeah.
Wow.
So probably the biggest question on our listeners' mind is, when can we expect to see wider distribution of the film, and do you know how it will be released to the general population yet?
I do know, but I cannot tell you yet. I mean, all I can tell you now is that I mean, it's gonna be big, epic release, and it's probably gonna be like beyond your wildest imagination how big this release will actually be. And we're probably announcing it in a few months, or maybe even less than that. And it's gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's gonna blow you all away, but it's definitely it's. I mean, I'm hugely happy about how the film is gonna be released now, and it's such an honor, and you'll see when the announcement comes out what I'm referring to. Yeah.
I figured there would be some questions that we posed to you here that we wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be able to give too much detail on. So we appreciate you at least talking about it. So good to hear that it's going to get some good distribution and everybody's going to be able to check it out. I know I for one am super excited to see it. So
that's so awesome. Yeah.
let's see. So do you have any envision? I mean, obviously some of this you probably can't talk about, but would you foresee this film maybe re-sparking some interest into another game being made with this? Since the beloved series is being put in the forefront of people's minds again. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of leverage come about skateboarding games again here in 2020. Sessions getting some exposure, Skater Excel's getting some exposure, but I think those are kind of more, those are more like sim type, trying to model realistic skateboarding as opposed to more of the arcadey style of Tony Hawk. Any thoughts around that? I mean, again, if if there is something being talked about that you can't share, that's fine. But what do you think? Do you think this would spark some more interest in a game being made?
I guess all I can say about that is really that anybody who sees the film wants to play the games afterward, and so I mean, there's even our still photographer for the event was like, "Oh yeah, dude, I just went to my attic and got my PlayStation 1 and started playing the game yesterday." So I think there's a bunch of interest for sure that might be sparked with the documentary. I can't say any more than that, but I also want to say about Session and Skater XL that I think those are really good games on their own, and I feel like we're kind of evolving to the next generation of skateboarding games, which is skate sims. And I played both of them, and I feel like they're both so good in their. Especially Session now with their latest update, where you actually have to catch the board while doing kickflip. It's just amazing. So to see that and to see that there's even before they're launching, there's two there's two competitors. It's just amazing to see that there's so much interest in those games.
Yeah, for sure. It's been Session just came out with another release where you now have, I can't remember they call the control scheme something, but they made it so that you can play the game like Skate. So the controls are very similar to that, and that was like, oh, sold. That's when I bought it because the other controls were so hard for me. I just couldn't quite get it. Couldn't wrap my head around it. Yeah. So when they released skate-like controls, and that was just in the last couple of weeks, really, really awesome to see, and it's been fun to play. So.
Yeah, I totally agree because upon playing, I think they released the early beta way too early, the one that you got through Kickstarter, because that one wasn't that polished, and you had people that played it and actually. I don't think anybody truly enjoyed it. People just defended it because it's an early work in progress. But I think that was just way too early. And now it's actually I think now it would be ready to be test released, just like Skater XL. Because that's the thing about Skater XL, it just blew Session out of the water at first, and now Session is kind of coming back.
Yeah, for sure.
For the documentary, did you primarily interview pro skaters, or was it a good mix of the skaters as well as the Neversoft devs?
Oh man, what's a good mix? Would that be like 50-50 or? I think at first we kind of tried to 50-50 with developers and skaters, but as the focus kind of shifted to we want to make a documentary about the impact that Tony Skater had, and the skaters' expectations. So much of the documentary is about the skaters and their hardcore community, and how they were these hardcore people that were approached to do this mainstream thing, a video game, and their reactions to that, and then the outcome of all that. So I think for our second round of interviews, 2018 summer, our third round. That's when we kind of had almost only skaters, and they all did such a good job. And the skaters are, very used to being interviewed. So, we had a bunch of Neversoft people, at first, but a lot of them didn't actually make it to the final cut because either they just said something that had already been said, or the material wasn't very usable. I truly appreciate their time, but I feel like, yeah, to answer your question, yes, we don't really have balance. It's mostly skaters, but when you watch film, it's gonna make a lot of sense why we pick mainly skaters, because in the film, it's mainly Mick West and Scott Pease that kind of take the lead as to telling the story of Neversoft, and they do a really good job for various reasons. I think the main reason is that they're not overly nostalgic about Neversoft and the video games. They just kind of moved on with their lives.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of developers just, I'm not gonna say, I mean, they did an amazing game, but they're just like, they just can't. It's like they're being amazed as they talk, as we're interviewing them. So it's kind of hard, to include it in the film.
Interesting. Talking about the glory days of the former, days of old or whatever, huh?
Yeah, I understand. If I worked at something like Toronto Skater, I would totally be like that too, probably. But I can't tell. I haven't done that yet. But
Sure.
but I just feel like there's it's very hard to get that feeling that I guess they were looking for when they heard of THP's documentary Into the Film. Like, oh yeah, we would stay up all night, we would work, and we would have Jen Jameson come over, and we'd have Teenage D at our after party, all
Right.
that, because they have a bunch of those stories, man. Yeah,
Sure. I think it's well documented, some of the crazy stuff that happened in the workplace there, for sure.
yeah, for sure. Like kickflip contests. They had. They had Tenacious D at the rap party of Time of Scare 2, actually. That looked fun.
Wow.
I love it. So, without spoiling too much, were you guys able to get any rights for any of the iconic songs from the soundtracks to be included in the film?
Oh yeah, of course.
Cool.
That's all I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, great, good. I figured you did, but I just we figured we asked the question anyway. So
Yeah. Well, it's a good question for sure. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Skater XL in session, so let me ask you: do you think there is still a market for a full AAA skateboarding game in 2020? Do you think the interest is there, or the demand, from what you can tell?
I would. Oh God, it sucks to say this, but I would probably say no, because I don't really feel like there's. AAA now is just so much bigger than AAA back in 1999 or 2000. So, a AAA game now, what would that be? Like, I don't know, God of War. Oh God, I'm so behind on games now. But let's say let's say a game like Spider-Man, like the Insomniac one for PS4.
Yeah.
That's a AAA game, and I just feel like, how do I put this correct? People just aren't that interested in sports titles now. There's FIFA, obviously. I just feel like people kind of moved on from skateboarding games, and it's become this niche genre that people are attracted to. But it's not like people are like, I want to play a skateboarding game, that are nostalgic. They're saying, I want to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, so they know the formula. So,
Right.
And if we're talking about a AAA game, I think a AAA game would probably require a whole new gameplay system, and I don't think there's an audience for just a brand new skateboarding game. And I think Session and Skater XL kind of show that there's this niche audience that will love those games no matter what, but it's just not going to top the sale charts anymore.
Interesting perspective. I always hold out hope that there is a market out there, but I'm really curious to see once it hits the Olympics, if it's going to blow up again, and we're going to see a really huge resurgence in it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think one of the things that kind of made me realize this one I was talking about was that Shenmue 3. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Shenmue franchise.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a pretty huge fan.
Nice.
So, but Shenmue 3, I imagine it as being like the most hyped game of all time. And then I look at the sales charts, man, and they're worse than the freaking remake or remaster of the Shenmue 1 and 2 for the PlayStation 4. And I just go like, what, dude? I went to and I figured I was the only guy who pre-ordered a game at my local game shop. I was like, no, this is not happening.
Interesting.
And all hope for Shenmue 4 was lost at that time. So.
And that's a hard reality too. It hits you like a ton of bricks, and that's. I mean, I think I've come to terms with that with Tony Hawk over time. Just because, just like it sounds like you did, I had huge and high hopes for HD, and then 5. Less for 5, more for HD. I thought HD was going to be the savior of the series and bring everything back, and it did not. It was not to be. So. Crazy. So once this film's distributed, do you guys have any hopes, or do you envision any sort of a sequel or a part 2, or was this truly meant to kind of be a solo project? It effectively tells enough of the story on its own.
I think it's meant to be a solo project, and it tells enough of the story on its own. I think not everything. There's a lot of things left out, but I think that's for the better. I think that's just because that wouldn't be interesting enough for a film. So this is probably a standalone film. I think I'll definitely work on some skateboarding documentaries in the future, just not skateboarding video game documentaries because I'm kind of past that now. But
sure.
But yeah, we cover so much ground in this documentary that I just don't see the need for a second game, really, or no, a second documentary. Yeah,
gotcha.
Ludvig, the critical success of this documentary has got to be doing big things for your directorial career. What other films or projects have you been working on that you can share with us?
When it comes to documentaries, I've had a lot of different offers. One that I'm pretty sure I told Carrie about is that I've been working with Bad Religion quite a bit. So I did a short documentary with Bad Religion last year for their latest album, Age of Unreason. That was a fun project. I went to tour with them in Europe, and that was real fun. Other than that, I've been working. I mean, my main thing is kind of horror, so I've been doing a lot of horror projects on the side. So I just did. I've done one horror short film called The Outsider, which is based on a story by H.P. Lovecraft, who's probably one of my favorite authors, and that's been going around the festival circuit really well. We just got, that was a while ago, but we got a really major distributor to actually distribute the film, which is, getting distributed for a short film is rare in its own, so that's been amazing. Nice. Both streaming and DVD, so that's super cool. It'll probably be released online in July, so I'll let you guys know.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Other than that, my day-to-day business is doing various documentaries here in Sweden too. I work for a company called French Quarter Film. We done, we actually did a film called And Then We Danced, which was shortlisted for an Academy Award in the foreign language category. It did not get nominated. I didn't work in that film, but my company did produce it. So
wow.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of projects with them. So yeah, there's a lot of things that's happening right now, and hopefully I'll have another major documentary directorial credit in the near future. So yeah, I mean we're still kind of bouncing around what the next project could possibly be.
That's awesome. Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen the Bad Religion mini doc that Ludvig did, check it out. It turned out really well. I enjoyed it. It's a good one. So. All right, so let's see. Do you feel like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater will always be something you'll be interested in, and do you even still play the series on any sort of consistent basis?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely played less since I'm not gonna say I stopped playing Thug Pro, but how do I put this? I got new computers. I switched to Mac, and since then I haven't actually installed Thug 2 on my PC yet, which is super weird, I know. But I actually tried to install everything legally. So, and my new computer doesn't even have a disk reader. So I'm gonna work around that and install Thug Pro soon. But I mean, I have my GameCube still on my new place. I played Tony Hawk's Skater 4 yesterday with my girlfriend. We had a lot of fun. She never played Tony Hawk before, so that was interesting. And she really loved it. That was the interesting part. And she actually said wow. I mean, so I actually played the trumpet. That's the thing we might get into. And I actually play in one of the Tony Hawk's Skater cover bands, the Downhill Jam that played the premiere.
Oh yeah.
And she recognized almost every song in the game because of she's been hearing me jam those songs on my trumpet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but no, I do try to play it on a consistent basis. I also play a lot of it with my best friend, who's the composer of the film. He's a huge fan of the games. But I want to play more. I mean, I definitely want to play some more soon. Hopefully, I'm not doing it well. I'm probably gonna stay home tomorrow, so hopefully I'll play some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
There you go. I love it.
Ludvig, when you did play the series consistently, I know you've expressed that the online community was fairly tight-knit and not always generally welcoming to newer players with open arms. Talk about that a bit. Do you think more newer players would stick around longer if they felt welcomed and accepted?
You know, I can't really say much on, if new players would feel more welcome and stuff like that if they were accepted. I think just when I was introduced to the community of Toronto Skater, it was sort of like, I mean, it's very similar to the hardcore skateboarding community, interestingly enough, that they do their own thing. They do the improv videos, no manuals, stuff like that. And they do this thing that nobody else understands and nobody else gets it. And, but we're going to keep doing it because we're OGs. And I feel like I like that. I totally like that. I just felt like when I joined the Toronto Skater community, I was kind of welcomed by a lot of people, but there wasn't really anybody who introduced me to the various play styles. Some people did, some people didn't, but I think I could have learned a lot from that. But for some reason, I started to stick around, and I did great with that. But that's the weird part about it, that when I started doing those commentaries, a lot of people just were like, "Whoa, what's this guy doing? Like, this isn't Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This is selling out." And for me, my reaction was obviously like, "Oh, well, these guys don't know shit. They're just they're just a bunch of assholes." And I don't want to, that's not the approach I want to have. But I guess I think Freddie, or some guys mentioned that my videos were always appreciated in the hardcore community, and that's great. But I actually never really felt that way. And if that's how it was, then props to you guys, because I love the community. I love the Toronto Skate community. But I also feel like I joined it when it was dead, when it was completely dead, and it had sort of a revival in 2014. And since then, I've seen a lot of new players online, and I like to think that they're welcome, and they probably are, but I just feel like there was a big hardcore community of PlayStation 2 era that just wasn't very welcoming, and I don't know what's happening with that now, but yeah, it definitely didn't have me like it definitely didn't motivate me to play more or something like that. But I stuck around because that's just who I was at the time.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always felt I don't play online as much as I did at one time, but I know that there's this perception, and I think you said it really well just now, that people are going to play the game how they're going to play it, and they're very into it in that respect. And if other people aren't necessarily playing it in that same way, they are like, oh, maybe that person's a noob, or they don't get it, or get good, or some of that type of conversation.
Yeah.
Where when I play, I try to embrace somebody that's newer, as long as they're not obnoxious, obviously. But if they're kind and they seem like they want to learn or whatever, then I try to embrace that. I try to, because that's how you're going to help the community to stay alive and to grow. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to just be so niche that you're going to be your own demise, I think.
Fully agreed. Yeah, and I feel like there was a lot of great response from the community with my YouTube channel and my Thug Pro videos. But I feel like a lot of hardcore people were just like, "Oh, now we're bringing in the noobs to the game and they don't know how to play it." And I'm kind of like, yeah, I guess in a way, but at the same time, would you rather see this community die? And I feel like a lot of the people, of the hardcore people, would just say yes. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Okay, so that ends our panel questions from Freddie and I. So we have one question from Discord that I'll pass along, and then there's a couple of questions in chat, and then we'll let you go. I know it's getting late over there for you.
No worries. Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
so the question from Discord, you of course know Tyler Lasagna. You got to hang out with him and I when we were in San Diego last year together.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was so awesome.
Yeah, Tyler's great. So he says he saw that at the premiere you guys had a specific skateboard deck that was made, and he's a huge collector. We're actually going to have him on the podcast in the future talking about his collection. But he's wondering,
nice.
Yeah, he said he saw one of those decks go on sale on eBay already, and you guys said it was from the premiere, and so he was just wondering, do you have any idea how many of those decks were made? I think he's trying to understand value.
Oh, I don't know actually, but what I can tell you, Tyler, if you're listening, is that I think there's a couple left, and I'll make sure you get one one way or another. So yeah.
Ooh, they're super generous.
Also, Tyler was. I think I remember Tyler donated quite a bit to the film, so he should definitely get one either way. So yeah, that's just me. I'm not sure what Ralph's gonna say, but I'll tell you. Yeah, you'll get one.
There you go. Oh, I love it. Cool. Freddie, you want to grab a first question from Twitch?
Yeah, we have. Now, obviously, you can only tell us what you can tell us, but username Warpig would like to know if Ludwig knows anything about the remake of THPS 1 and 2.
Well, you said it. I can. Yeah, no comments. Yeah.
There you go. No comment. Sorry, Warpig. Can't help you out there.
So sorry. Yeah.
User LED INF or LED infrared, as we know him by. He says, is there going to be old footage of Neversoft employees goofing off in the movie, and is there going to be new or unseen clips of them?
Yes, there's going to be some footage actually. Not a whole lot, but there's some footage of the kickflip contest. I think.
Cool.
That's not necessarily unseen, but I do know there's one clip that's unseen of. I hope Jal Jew is not listening, but there's a clip of Jal dropping into a vert, and he lands really hard, like he bails. And, I think that's a never before seen clip actually that we had. It was actually from Ralph's camcorder from like way back. So there's some clips from when the Neversoft team goofs around the Skate Ventura when Tony's doing the mocap for the first game.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, there's some new never before seen footage from there. Not in the 411 VM video that I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen.
Oh yeah, gosh, the intro videos were always famous on every game, and then always during the credits. You know, you'd finish the game and the credits would roll, and there was always some shenanigans. You know, blowing up televisions and stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah.
User Sarge wants to know if there's going to be any bonus features with the documentary.
That's a real good question. I don't know yet, to be honest. I mean, there's some funny parts in interviews that we couldn't include. Like this is gonna be exclusive for you guys, so I hope nobody posts about this online. But there's actually a part where I interviewed Tony the first time where he totally like he doesn't remember anything about Tony Hawk. No, I'm not gonna say that, but there's a lot of things that he has some misremembered. So first of all, he says that Tony Hawk 2 was released on a PlayStation 2, and I correct him for that. And then he says, we had online. And I was like, no, you didn't. And he actually goes like, fuck, what's happening? Yeah. And I definitely want to include that, because that was some fun footage. Because a lot of people ask me, like, can you ask Tony why in American Wasteland you could sticker slap that wall? You know, some very niche question. I just go like, no, I can't, because he doesn't know that.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny. I guess the perception would be that he knows everything about every last little nuance of it, and he probably doesn't remember half of it. And that what you just said proves that. So,
and you think the Neversoft people do too, but we have it. I mean, I think only one person has actually noticed this, but there's a huge error, like when it comes to level in the Tony Hawk games that somebody mentions, and I think he says warehouse, but we're actually showing at Chicago. And whenever you watch film, you gotta notice how oddly specific this is. So like, that's like, damn, that's just wrong. But nobody's noticed it yet. So yeah, and that's one of the developers who loves talking about the game. And he says, you know, he mixes Chicago with warehouse, and that's a big error for me.
Yeah, that's so funny. The hardcore community will point it out. We have some. I call them Tony Hawk's Pro Skater encyclopedias in our THPSX Discord. Those guys are crazy. The stuff that they know is just insane. And like even Slateman, talking to him when we interviewed him about the book, man, that guy knows so much about the games.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking. So.
Oh yeah, you know, I actually met Slateman because he lived in Sweden for a while.
Yeah, there's a picture of you guys in his book in the back of it. Yeah.
Oh really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, absolutely. In the back of the book, there's a picture of you and Slateman together. So yeah, he mentioned you for sure.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he gave you some good shout outs in the podcast. So if you haven't listened to his,
I haven't even listened to that yet.
Yeah, you have to check it out. He was a great guest. We loved having him, and yeah, he gave you a shout out for sure. And yeah, like I said, check out the book. It's great. So
yeah, the book's awesome. Yeah.
Let's see the next two questions in the Twitch chat. This is from Solinar TV and Quartz user. So Icebeard's actually already covered this. So your two questions, and that was when can we watch the documentary online? He basically had said that that is going to be forthcoming. He's not able to make the announcement yet, but it will be. Everybody should be really excited by it. And then the second question was, will the documentary get a worldwide release, and how much will it cost? I'll let you say as much as you'd like to about that, Ludwig.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is that this year on both questions. That's really it. I mean, it's gonna come out this year, one way or another. But yeah, it'll be out this year for sure, 100%. Yeah.
Cool, great. Any other questions from Twitch chat before we get ready to wrap this up? Looks like we've pretty well covered it. Okay, well, Ludwig, we are so stoked and so thankful that you were able to join us for this time today. We really appreciate your time, staying up late for us, and I know you're being under the weather here a bit. So, thank you for fighting through the cold there and joining us. So, yeah, with this. Consider this your platform. If you'd like to take a couple of minutes and give a plug for any of your socials for the film or anything that you've got going on in your life that you'd like to talk about, floor is yours. Take a couple of minutes, say anything you'd like to, anything you'd like for people to check out or whatever. We'll just give you this time. Floor is yours.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to do too much self-promotion, but all I can say is, thank you guys for supporting my YouTube channels throughout the years. That means a whole lot. That channel is the whole basis for the documentary. That's how I ended up getting the job and all that stuff. So without you guys, I mean, that definitely wouldn't have happened. So thank you so much. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just Google THPS Film, and you'll find our various platforms. Also go to thpsfilm.com where you can check out some info about the film. Hopefully we're posting some new footage soon. And yeah, we're pretty active on social media. So, and if there's any other questions, just let us know. Send us a message. And I'm really sorry I can't talk more about when the film is going to be released and such, but I mean, it's going to happen this year, and there will be announcements soon. And just know that we are working on it. We're really working hard on it, and we can't wait to show it to all of you Tony Hawk Pro Skater fans out there. I mean, you guys have been. I mean, the fact that there's a community for this game 20 years after it's been released just shows how good it is of a game. And especially in this day and age, you can see how much pop culture relevance it has. Even I don't know if you heard of a rapper called Juice World. He died very recently of a drug overdose. But even in one of his songs, and this is like one of the most streamed artists in the world, he actually wrote in the lyrics, "I'm going home to play Tony Hawk 3 on the PS2." And then he talks about
Oh wow!
And it just shows how much cultural relevance there is for this game, and how it's almost more relevant now, and how people are so nostalgic about it. So again, Thank you guys, and look forward to the film this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll make sure and link up some of your socials and so forth in the descriptions for the replays.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we want to make sure and give you that exposure as much as we can. So, Freddie, any closing thoughts for Ludwig?
I just really like to thank you for your time. You've been really insightful for us today, and I really hope to see you on Thug Pro one day.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, look us up. Definitely would love to have you join. So, all right, Ludwig, if you want to jump off, you're welcome to. If you'd like to hang out for a couple of minutes, we're just going to introduce our next guest, not next week, but our next guest, and it's just kind of some housekeeping stuff. Welcome to stay if you'd like. Otherwise, if you want to drop off the call, again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
All right, thank you. I'll probably have to drop off, but thank you again, guys.
You betcha.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Well, with that, we appreciate Ludwig's time. We're super stoked that he was able to join us today. Good episode, good talk with him for sure. I'm excited to see the film. I'm sure you are too, Freddie.
Absolutely. I'm really interested in seeing the untold story, the unseen footage that he was referring to, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. It should be good. I mean, I think a lot of us know the history of it and the story of it, but I think it'll be interesting to see it really told in a professional manner with interviews with everybody, just getting their thoughts. I think it's going to be really exciting. So I'm stoked for it. So, um, just a couple of quick pieces of housekeeping, then we'll talk about who's going to be next. Number one, we want to just say thank you to Satin last week. He was a great guest. We really appreciate him, and we appreciate his time. And I think he got inspired. It looks like he's got some more levels in the works from what I'm following in Discord there. So we'll be excited to see that, see some more of his work. So let's see. Our next guest, we're super excited. I've been nervous to even talk about this because I'm sure
this is going to be such an awesome episode.
Yeah, I think everybody would be excited to hear it. We've thrown a couple teasers out there for some folks, and everybody that I've said is just blown away that we're able to find this guy. It took some hunting to track him down, but this is going to be actually in a couple of weeks because of our schedules and because of spring break. This is not going to be until Sunday, March 29th. That's going to be our next episode. But on that day, we are super excited, and we're going to be welcoming our next guest, and that is going to be Magic Summer. So for those of you who don't know, Magic Summer is considered by many to be one of the greatest Tony Hawk's Pro Skater players of all time. He has some of the most well-known and well-respected videos of gameplay from the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 era, including his famous Alcatraz no manual line. He's the winner of the very first improv tournament, the Improverty-Stricken tournament, or I-1 as it's known, and then he also turned around and then he wins I-2 as well, back-to-back wins in improv there, which I don't think has been done since. Cemented him as a pioneer in the improvisational, that's a hard word to say, improvisational style of gameplay for the series. His videos of improv and no manuals are absolutely legendary, still watched and referenced today by modern players. He's one of the earliest members of the TXO clan and highly revered as an elite player from the era by, I think, pretty much everyone. So we are excited to welcome him as our guest on Sunday, March 29th. We'll announce the time. So,
did you ever hang out with him in your TXO days?
You know, that's a great question because I'm going to have to think about that over the next couple of weeks. I think I did play online with him a few times. We will have a little bit of, there may be some accent challenges with him because he's from Switzerland, so we're going to have another international guest. This was not planned, by the way, folks. We've had, this is with, between Slateman and Italy, Ice Bears of Sweden this week, and then we're going to have Magic Summers from Switzerland here in a couple of weeks. So our time schedules didn't work out that well, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I did. So
very interesting. Can't wait to have him on.
Yeah, it should be a great thing. I actually have already rewatched several of his videos and just blown away. my tune in his skill and style is definitely still it's just amazing. So yeah. All right. Well, this was fun today. I enjoyed talking to Ice Bears. I'm sure you did as well, Freddie. And I know you've been sick too, so thank you for persevering and fighting through it and being a part of this today.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I think it went very well. Ice Bears, I wish him all the luck in the world with the distribution of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks.